Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a Buzzing About Romance quick shot of romance. You get Becky and Leah for this episode. Hey Leah.
Hi Becky.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, living the dream, right?
Living the dream.
Okay, so on this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, we are reviewing The Invitation by Vi Keeland. Funny stories involving this book. I went to pre-order the ebook because, you know, I love Vi. She's like an automatic one-click author for me. I accidentally pre-ordered the paperback. So when the paperback showed up, I was like, oh, I meant to get the ebook. So then I went and bought the ebook.
Of course.
On your Kindle, you can share books, some books, not all books.
Yes.
You can loan to a friend.
So Becky loans me the invitation. And so I start to read it. And then I'm like, Becky, you really need to read this. Like, it's really good. And so Becky, having the paperback, could read the book. But you know what happens? Becky buys me a copy of the book and just like, give me my copy back because she did not want to get off her couch to get the paperback.
Well, it was tucked up in my shelves and like I had to move things to get it out tonight to put it behind me. So anyway, it's just better this way. Also, you had it forever.
I had other books to read.
You had it forever.
I did have it forever, but then you didn't read it fast enough.
Well, and she's talking about it. Anyway, we'll get into that. But you're talking about it like somebody needs to read this with me, so I have someone to talk to about it. And I'm just like, give me back my book.
So she just bought me one. Okay, so the synopsis from Goodreads. The first time I met Hudson Rothschild was at a wedding. I received an unexpected invitation to one of the swankiest venues in the city. Hudson was a groomsman and quite possibly the most gorgeous man I'd ever laid eyes on. He asked me to dance and our chemistry was off the charts. I knew it wasn't a good idea to get involved with him considering the wedding I was at, but our connection was intense and I was having a great time. Though, the fun came to a screeching halt when Hudson figured out I wasn't who I said I was. You see, that unexpected invitation I received? Well, it hadn't actually been addressed to me. It was sent to my ex-roommate who bounced a check for 2 months' rent and moved out in the middle of the night. I figured she owed me an expensive night out, but I guess technically I was crashing the wedding. Once caught, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. As I bolted for the door, I might have plucked a few bottles of expensive champagne off the tables I passed. All the while, the gorgeous, angry groomsman was hot on my tail. Outside, I jumped into a taxi. My heart ricocheted against my ribs as we drove down the block, but at least I escaped unscathed, or so I thought, until I realized I left my cell phone behind at the table. Take one guess who found it. This is the crazy story of how Hudson Rothschild and I met, but trust me, it's only the tip of the iceberg.
So the release date on this is January 16th of 2021. The trope is wedding crasher, meet cute, co-workers, mistaken identity, single dad, billionaire, CEO, and again, a slow burn. I know
we've been reading a lot of slow burns lately.
We have. I should also state this book is actually available in Hoopla. I didn't find it until after I emergently had to buy you your own copy. This is a steam level of about a 3.5, I would say. I mean, it doesn't fade to black.
No.
And it's very, very flirty, but it's not like strongly graphic.
No, it's not, but I didn't miss it because it was good enough without it. There were those moments that were really hot and enjoyable.
Yeah. So let's talk The Invitation. This book has been on my TBR since before it released.
Since it came out.
Yes, because I read The Rivals, which is the sister's book, but these can be read completely as standalones. So, and we get to meet Hudson's sister, Olivia. She pops up in this book too, The Invitation.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's the meet cute.
Talk about the meet cute. Oh my God. She was so funny.
I love
so
this.
funny. So she crashes the wedding. It's her and her best friend Fisher. They're
Who
crashing
I adored.
I mean, he's hilarious. They've given made up names. They have the invitation. They pass security. It is at the New York City Library is where the wedding is being held, which is like a very expensive, exclusive venue to have your wedding at. It's a several $100 plated dinner with high-end champagne. And Stella is at the bar and asks for a very specific kind of gin and tonic. And the bartender pours it, and he pours the other kind. He pours,
and she's like, this is not.
She wanted Bombay, and he poured Hendrix.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is not my gin and tonic. And Hudson and his best friend, Jack, are like, can you really tell the difference between gin? And she like very specifically says, yeah, I can. There's this.
And she like lays out like I can't remember the differences because there's a lot of scent stuff going on in this book, but like she basically lays out like Hendrix has this, and this. Bombay has this, and this, and she has a super sniffer.
Right. So she has a heightened sense of smell, and she says to them, no, I can tell the difference. And so Hudson has the bartender pour and has her blind taste the drinks. And
of
Jack,
course they bet on it.
Right. Jack and Hudson are always betting, and they bet on it $200, and she goes in for $200 that she can tell the difference. And she wins.
Yeah.
And Hudson is completely intrigued and entranced, and she captures his attention. He asks her to dance. And as they're dancing, he asks her for her name because he's attracted to her.
Yes.
And she gives the fake name that she's there under the wedding at.
Yeah.
And the fake name is his former personal assistant, best friend from his sister's childhood best friend.
Yeah. So, and he knows this is not her. But so he does something that is like terrible and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil it because you have to read it
you just
in
have
real
to read
time. But I will say the way Stella reacted and took charge in that moment was amazing. Like she was like, well, I'm just going to go whole hog and do this and do it outright. And
she took her role and she was gonna sell it.
Oh, and she sold it.
She was so funny.
And I think he was very impressed at the fact that like she did not hold back in the story that she tells. Like,
yeah, it was.
Oh my.
Anyway, so funny, like laugh out loud giggles. Let's talk about Stella a little bit. Smart, confident, sassy, super determined, but cautious. I love when after she is trying to start her own perfume startup company. And it is a signature perfume company where basically they send you some sample cards to smell. You put the ones you like. It's like a little quiz and an algorithm test that you take. And then they produce a signature perfume specifically for you. And she's quit her high-end job as a perfumist for Estee Lauder and is going out on her own. But in the midst of all of this, her former fiance, she finds out it has cheated on her. Her roommate has left her high-end diner apartment. She's had to buy
her fiance was her business partner, so she had to buy him out. Yeah. And then she quit her job. So it's not the best timing for her for things to happen.
No, but she left her phone at the wedding when she got caught as a wedding crasher. And on the way out the door, she and Fisher steal like 3 bottles of high-end gold labeled champagne. I think it was like 3 bottles a piece.
Yeah,
they just
had like arms full of like.
Yeah. So they steal the champagne, but she realizes after she gets home that she left her phone at the wedding.
Yes.
And she has to kind of man up and go.
But what's funny is she bought a new phone.
but she can't afford to keep it.
She can't afford to keep it. So she keeps it until like that last day. Because like Hudson like gets in touch with her and says, I have your phone. But so she does not go until like that last possible moment. But while she is there, does she run into Olivia at the office or does Olivia call her after?
Well, it's after Olivia calls her, and because she heard about the signature scent and she's intrigued about this concept. And Hudson and Olivia own an investment firm, Rothschild Investments, and part of what they do is venture capitalism.
Yeah.
They take startups and help provide them the funding for a cut of the profits in the end. And Olivia convinces Stella to pitch her business to them.
Yes. And she blows her presentation out of the water. Like,
she really does. And Hudson is not
a
easy.
Strong, confident, like put together businesswoman. Like Hudson thinks that Stella is this airheaded, like flake who can't handle anything. But sitting through that presentation, he's like, it's watching a different person in front of me.
Well, the perfect example of how business-minded and determined she is after she gives her presentation for the company, she actually gets a rejection letter from the Rothschilds that they do not want to invest in her firm, that they're going to pass it this time.
That is signed by Hudson.
And she's pissed. She is pissed. So she shows up at the company and sits in the lobby waiting for him for 2 days to speak to him. He keeps her waiting. Yeah. And I just think that shows her determination, her strength. Like, she's not going to just accept a no. She needs to know why they're saying no.
Well, and I think part of it, though, too, is like she has kept in contact with Olivia. Olivia has basically like taken hold of her and is like, you are going to be my friend and you don't have a choice. And so she is under the impression that things are going to work out and then they don't. And she wants to know why. Like she understands if there's a valid reason for them not wanting to continue this business partnership. She's not being conceited about it, but she wants a reason.
Yeah.
Because she was under the impression things were going to move forward. And then she got this letter.
So real quick, Stella's backstory herself. So she's got this fiance. We only meet him in flashbacks. She never actually physically runs into him in the book. He's an asshole. We hate him. He needs to go. You also learn, though, that she did not come from a typical household, and it's caused some problems for her. She is estranged from her family. Yes. So she really is out there doing this business, doing her work on her own. She does not have a support system.
She has Fisher.
She has Fisher, the best friend.
Yes.
So let's just real quick, let's talk about Hudson. He's the hero you swoon over. Like
he has like jerky moments, but
he's not perfect.
He's not perfect, but honestly, like it's almost like he wants to get back at her for mistakes that have happened. And it's just his way of showing affection in a sense.
But I also think that he is one of those people that, because of his ex-wife, because of, being a wealthy individual and some of the things that happen and people that have been in and out of his life, he's a little guarded. But he's also
very jaded also, like because of his ex-wife and the way things happened with that. But he is the best brother and an amazing dad.
Amazing. His daughter's name is Charlotte. They call her Charlie. He writes little messages on her fruit to put in her lunch pail every day. Mm-hmm. It was so cute, so Sweeney. We do not get a ton of Charlotte on the page, actually. There's only like 2 or 3 big moments with Charlotte.
But they're wonderful moments. But it's one of those situations, though, where the ex-wife has primary custody. So he doesn't have Charlie as often as other single parents. Yeah. So it makes sense that she's not on the page a lot. But the moments she is on the page, like he is 100% present for her. And I love that. Like if he has Charlie, he has Charlie.
Yeah, he is definitely an engaged father with her. I also liked about Hudson is that he was obviously attracted to Stella. He asked for her number. There's a situation that happens there. We're not going to spoil that. Yeah. But when things kind of flounder and they start working together, he puts the ball in her court and says, if you want this, you have to ask me out. I'm not going to pursue you. This is your call.
Like, he's ready. He wants it to happen, but he needs her on the same page. And I love that dynamic. And I think that the fact that he understands she has hangups at the fact that they're now working together and she's pretty guarded herself, that he wants her in the mental mindset where she is ready to make those steps.
For sure. So let's talk about Fisher, the best friend. He might be the bestest best friend ever. I adore him.
I do too.
This is my favorite moment was his birthday.
Mine too, because his mom had passed away a couple years prior to the book on his birthday. So instead of like wallowing in his grief, he celebrates his birthday by buying Stella presents. Like he celebrates his friend and like bestows all of that happiness and love onto her. So like she has this thing with diaries, which we'll talk about in a second, but he has gotten this diary translated for her. He buys her gifts. He bought her this giant bouquet of flowers that like sits on her desk. And Hudson's like, who are these flowers from?
Right. Like he's a little like pissy about it to start with.
He's very jealous of the fact that she is getting flowers. And she's like, oh, it's Fisher's birthday. And Hudson's like, but why is he buying you flowers?
Yeah. I really like Fisher. He is exactly who she needed for the best friend. You know, he is her voice of reason. He is her partner in crime.
That's the thing. Like he pushes her out of her comfort zone, like when he knows she needs it. But he helps keep her grounded at the same time. But because he was right there with her at the wedding, but he is so supportive of her new company. And he, at one point, she's applying for loans and can't get stuff. And he's like, I have money. Like, I want to give this to you. And she's like, I don't want to make that dynamic change between us. Yeah. But he was more than willing to give her every penny he had to help her start her dream.
And, you know, sometimes and Fisher is, he is gay in the story. And it's funny because he flirts with everything that will walk. Yeah. But I want to say that this was not written. Sometimes we get the gay best friend and it's so stereotypical. It's so over the top. He was not. And it felt genuine. It felt real. This felt like my best friend. So I just felt like kudos should be given to Vi Keeland for how well that was written. Real quick before we get down to our questions, let's talk about her hobby of the diaries. Yes. This is huge.
She stumbled, like it is a huge thing, but she stumbled upon this hobby when she was younger because she bought a diary at a yard sale when she was like 8 or 9, I think. Was she
12?
Little?
She was 12. Okay. Because she was going to use it to write her. She thought it was empty. She opened it upside down and backwards. And she was going to use it to start writing her own journal. And she slowly realizes that this is somebody else's journal.
So it's pretty much full. So she gets in this hobby of reading journals. And I am sure this is a real thing. But so she'll buy journals from all over the place. And she has bought lots of foreign journals. And then she has to get them translated. And so, but the diaries make a big part of the story.
I think it was a very fantastical way to weave Stella and who she is and the type of person she is throughout the story. It gave us tidbits as to who she is and why she reacts the way she reacts to things that would have been a little more difficult to get, because this is actually a really long story. It's not short. It's pretty thick. I think it was like 400 and some odd pages.
I think so.
It's just, so, but the way the author uses the diaries to help move the story forward is fantastic. It is so well done.
It is, and it helps move the story forward, but it also adds in little tidbits of information in how these diaries have transformed Stella's relationships and her life. Like, there are decisions that she has made in her life because of things that like she has read in a diary, because she understands and there's reflection there. So she uses that like to make her life, to move her life forward.
Yeah. I think because of the diary, she's much more cerebral, and also her personality. She's very cerebral. She's very much a thinker. She thinks before she speaks. She, you know, and sometimes those can be hard characters to connect to as a reader, because they're so caught up in their own brain and their own functionality like that way, that because of the diaries and the way that those emotions play out, it takes her out of her brain and into her heart. So it makes it easier for us as the reader to connect with her stories. Okay, so let's get to our questions because we're coming close to our time here. Leah, did you like this book?
I did, so much so that after I finished it, I was begging people to read it because I needed to talk to somebody about it with, especially the diaries part. Like, that was a twist that like I saw it coming.
There are
but, like,
some twists
I was just
in this
like,
book. Yeah.
But yeah, I knew what was going to happen, but there were things that happened that I did not expect at the same time.
I know this is definitely a book that's fantastic for a buddy read, because there are moments you're going to be, tell me no, but really you're like, yes. So yeah, I liked this book. This is a yes, yes, yes. I don't know why I waited so long to read this. I mean, I freaking pre-ordered it in December and I didn't read it until June. What the heck, Becky?
Now we know that you can't be trusted anymore.
I cannot be trusted. Who would typically like this book?
People that like a slow burn. There is a decent amount of banter in this book between Hudson and Stella. Like, I thought their chemistry and just the way they talk to each other was really entertaining. And if you like a boss bitch, like, honestly, because when Stella was in business mode, like, she was in control and in charge. And I love that, like, Vi made that was such a big part of her character, like how much this company meant to her and how much she wanted it to succeed and how much work and dedication she put into it.
Yeah. I said, if you have a heart and like an HEA, you should just read this. Like, if you claim to be a reader of romance and you love love, read this freaking book, people. Yeah. Would you recommend this book?
I absolutely would recommend this book. I tell anyone who asks for a book recommendation now that I've read it that they need to read this book because I need more people to talk about it with.
I am shouting from the rooftops. Everyone needs to read this. This is so, so good.
It is so good.
And because of the way that Vi Keeland writes, you can come to this if you like a softer romance, because it's not overly steamy, it's not overly sexual, but it isn't fade to black, you know? No. So, but this is a great crossover romance. And so I'm telling you, people, put it in your Kindle, buy the paperback. This is a phenomenal story. Everybody should be reading this and talking about it.
They should be.
Okay, so it qualifies.
And if you are part of this summer bingo challenge,
yes,
there are probably a few cards this qualifies on.
Oh, for sure. Two-word title, The Invitation. I put this book on Instagram. It's
I don't know if it's on mine, but I will put it on my Instagram.
It takes place in New York City, so it's a big city one.
It's a buzzing about romance 5-star read.
It is a buzzing about romance 5-star read. It is, if your initials are VK,
I mean, those are tough initials to find.
That. Those are. It's a billionaire romance. It's written in first-person point of view. I
think is slow burn one of the squares. I don't know if I put that on there.
I can't remember that.
It could be your favorite trope. If you like a wedding romance.
Yeah, I mean, there's just really it's a meet cute. This is an instant connection. It's been on my TBR list forever. I know that you can borrow this from Hoopla, so that would count as borrowing it from a library. Honestly, you guys.
It is a newer release, so you could use it for a brand new release. Like, we're loose on that one just because. Yeah,
we're not being crazy.
I feel like as long as it's in the year 2021, it can consist as a brand new release.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm telling you guys, this is a book to read. And play Summer Reading Challenge, because we're a lot of fun, and you can find details to join us at buzzingabout.romance.com. We have amazing prizes. We are actually adding prizes every day.
We are.
So by the time this episode have dropped, we'll have had 4 drawings and awarded almost like 10 winners. So
a lot of good stuff.
Seriously, people, join us. It's so much fun. Thank you for joining us on this quick shot of romance. It was great to see your face, Leah. Until always, next time, everyone.
See you too. Happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at buzzingaboutromance or on Twitter at buzzingromance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.